her over right to her apartment. And,
No, like I said, we're going to meet at Marzipan, so.
Okay. I mean, it's on the way to Marzipan, actually.
Yeah.
Her apartment.
Yeah.
And as we're walking in, we saw Miriam Fetterman.
Okay, we're on page 133. So, we've been learning about the relationship. Reb Shlomo was talking about the relationship between Channukah and Shalom Bayit. So among the many different things that he said, and we've covered, we had a couple of lessons about it last week. He says that he said in a teaching from the Rishner that children choose their parents. Up in heaven before the soul comes down to this world, the children choose their parents. So Reb Shlomo went ahead and he took that and he said a very beautiful thing. He said that when husband and wife get married, that is a or galui, a revealed light. When but the children, the souls of their children, they are like the concealed light that is yet to be revealed. And Channukah, yeah, you heard somebody at the door?
Yeah.
And Channukah is according to tradition, the light of Channukah is the organuz, is the concealed light. And meaning to say a number of different things. One is that this whole rebellion of the Maccabees against the Greeks could only be achieved because they got in touch with their concealed light. Okay, who's at the door? Shaya? Oh, he's not in the name. Okay. Because they got in touch with their concealed light. Hi, Chana. Hi, Fina. Fina, where are your friends? You don't know? They coming?
Sarah's coming.
Yeah.
I think Nikki wanted her to know.
Yeah. Okay. The Seder. So, in other words, I think Reb Shlomo said that there were all of 70 Maccabees taking on the whole Greek army. There's only one way that such a small group of people could do that is when they're mamish in touch with their concealed light. And also according to tradition, the little krug of oil that the miracle of Channukah took place with is the oil that was squeezed by Noach when the dove brought him the olive branch. That's the oil that was squeezed by Noach, and then was handed down through the generations. And that's the oil that Yaakov Avinu went to get when he, in this week's Parsha, right? And he went back across the river to get some little containers, it says, and then he had to fight with that angel man. He had to wrestle with that angel man. That little container that he went to get was the shemen, was the oil for the miracle of Channukah. And the Ramban explains this whole passage with the wrestling with the angel man. He also explains it in terms of Channukah. He relates it to the miracle of Channukah, and that's the whole thing, by itself. But basically, the idea is that you don't give up even on the what seems to be the most worthless of worthless Jewish people. And every Yid potentially has the capability of bringing Mashiach. Okay. So now the another difference between the fact is that according to halacha, what? Somebody's there? Huh?
Just a pen.
Oh, a pen. Just make sure you give it back to me. Another thing is that according to halacha, we would have been allowed to use oil that was tamei, oil that was not tahor, because when the whole community is tamei, so the laws of tumah, of ritual impurity, so to speak, get suspended. But because
Why is that?
Because it's not possible to practice it. In other words, it gets suspended, and it's not as far as everything. We're still tamei, like we're all tamei today, right? But suppose, for example, we would have the Beit HaMikdash today. How you have it? Suppose. That's Judy. Tell her that Larry and Miriam are here, please. They get suspended temporarily, okay? Because it will be impossible to.
I'm sorry.
They get suspended temporarily. In any case, because we were so moiser nefesh, we were so ready to give everything for cleansing the Beit HaMikdash. Therefore, Hashem did us that miracle, and we found that pure oil. Okay, that's the point. In any case, so going back to the whole thing of the so when Reb Shlomo says that the husband and wife meeting and getting married, that's revealed light, and the light of the children is the concealed light. So again, the idea is that a lot of times we get stuck in the reality the way it is right now, and we lose sight of the light that hasn't been revealed yet. Okay. So we're on 133.
Can I add something to that? Because I was reading yesterday. I was reading the first sheet, Reb Shlomo Carlebach, and something he said about this week's parsha. Since I do healing work, it just reminded me about the concealed and the revealed, and longing for Mashiach. You said that the Mashiach ben Yosef has to come first to create the longing. And so it just came to me like from the healing perspective that Tikkun Olam, each one of us has to do a part of it. And that means whatever we're carrying, that we have to process it and heal it. We can't just take a pill and ignore it and take a pill and ignore it. And I feel like when we do that, we're just ignoring the whole thing. Just ignoring our responsibility to clear, do tikkun. Like when we have a pain or illness, that shows like an area that needs attention.
Mm-hmm.
And it's connected to something like maybe some emotional thing, maybe some wound from the past.
Right.
And that's tikkun olam. Like it's not to just ignore it. It's
Correct.
to look at it, get help, and seek everybody's help for
Gotcha.
others.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, and you're just going in that direction.
So, Kirvat Emily Ladeha, the closeness of a mother to her children. Page 133. And I want you to know one more thing. Al pi rov, most of the time, Ima makira et hayeled shela lifnei Abba. Mother knows her child already before the father does. Limotenu, I mean, it's a fact. You probably remember when your children were born, like you look at this kid, like, who are you, right? And the mother's already had a relationship with the baby for months, right?
Absolutely.
So, Limotenu hayta re'iyah mukam mizo shel avotenu. Our mothers, right, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, they had a much deeper vision than our fathers. Sarah Yemenu amra laAvraham garesh et ha'ama hazot ve'et bena ki lo yirash ha'ama hazot im beni im Yitzchak. Right, Sarah was the one that said to Avram, send this concubine away and her son, because he is not to be here to inherit together with my son Yitzchak. Sarah mamash yada mihu Yitzchak u'ma omek ha'havdel beno ben Yishmael. Sarah really understood, she really knew the difference between Yitzchak and the depth of the difference between him and Yishmael. Avraham Avinu, he's the Isaiah. Avraham Avinu was all shook up by that. Vayera, as it says, Vayera hadavar ma'od beinei Avraham alodot beno. It was very bad in Abraham's eyes concerning his son. Ki hu adayin lo yadat omek ha'havdel, because he didn't know the depth of the difference between them. Not yet, anyway. Who amar gam Yishmael hu beni. He said, Yishmael is also my son. Then the Holy One says to him, Kol asher tomar elecha Sarah shma b'kola ki b'Yitzchak yikareh elecha zara. So God comes and says to Avraham Avinu, whatever Sarah told you, you have to listen to her, because Yitzchak is your seed. U'matay hikir Avraham Avinu be'emet et Yitzchak b'no ba'akedah. When did Avram get to see the difference between Yitzchak and Yishmael? During the Akedah. Taru lachem, imagine, Yitzchak Avinu nifrad ma'haolam. Imagine Yitzchak separate from the world. Mitkonen b'msoret nishmato l'kudsha b'richu. He's getting ready to give his soul back to God. Nora v'ayom, it's absolutely astounding and awesome. Pachad Yitzchak, right? The fear of God is on his face. Ad loto rega lo hikir Avraham mamash et beno. Until that moment, Avraham didn't know his son. Aval Sarah yada kol hazman mihu Yitzchak. But Sarah did know who Yitzchak was. She understood. She knew his depth. So, Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen Omer, there's a teaching from Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen, one of the two top students of the Ishbitzer. He says, "B'chol makom she'inyan mofia b'Torah b'pam harishona." Wherever something shows up for the first time in the Torah, sham hu shorosh ha'inyan. That's the root of it. That's the headquarters. Okay? הפעם הראשונה שבתורה שבן קורא לאביו, אבי, the first time that his son calls his father, page 134, ואב קורא לבנו, and that the father calls his son, בני, my son, זה בהליכתם של אברהם ויצחק לעקדה. It's when Avraham and Yitzchak were walking to the Akedah, that's the first time that She's
The first time that.
hi. It's the first time that we see a father calling his son son, and his son calling his father father.
After the.
But they were going to the Akedah,
Before they came.
just as they were walking to it. So he says, if someone says, "Az hebinu be'emet ma perush liot av v'ben," that's when Yitzchak and Abraham really got the depth of the relationship between father and son. Okay. What?
So why do you think that is? Why is that?
Why are mothers first?
No. The fact that they established a relationship at that point because.
No, that's what. So it's not that it's not that they established a relationship at that point. It's at that point that they understood the depth of the relationship.
The trust in each other.
Yeah, the trust in each other, and that's when Avram really got to know Yitzchak, like how awesome he was, and so on.
So I guess my question would be: so you know that because he just came with him, because
he came with him because he saw what he's made of.
Mm-hmm.
He saw what he's made of.
Mm-hmm.
And up to that point, he didn't know.
That's what he's saying. Is that Sarah understood it right from the start, but not everyone.
Sometimes it takes like a really big experience like that to really show the person's depth, and
That's
that
for
doesn't
sure.
happen just every day.
Yeah, but so some people need that experience to see it, and some people see it even before.
So I want to offer the thought of the knowing. It's the knowing. There's different ways to know people.
Right.
He knew him because he knew
course.
he was his son.
Different
But the knowing,
levels,
what's there is what would be like the deeper knowing,
The deepest aspect of knowing.
you know what I'm saying? He knew him in another way then.
Like a nuanced kind of way.
I want to say when people say there's wisdom, there's bina and there's das. So there's like in the knowing, another level of knowing. Someone's
In the deepest level of knowing is the level of bonding, right? Adam yada et Chava, Adam knew Chava, and then she conceived and gave birth, right? In other words, they bonded together.
Mm-hmm.
The knowing, we've been learning about this, right? That knowing is more than tree of knowledge knowing. It's tree of life knowing. Right?
Yeah.
It's a soulful knowing.
It's
Like you said, it's when the light gets revealed from inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of what you know, you behave differently.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just knowledge up in the head, right?
It'd be like if you had a really bad, you're going through a really bad time, and a friend of yours really helped you out and stood by you, and then you would see that friend different because you're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize what a good friend she was until she really helped me out, in this situation. And then after that, like you would be closer than ever just because of that one experience.
Right.
So a parent doesn't really know a child until later on in life. Yitzchak was 37.
He was, so look, the in general, the problem in relationships very often is that we build our relationships on external factors, right? And it's a problem in the education system. It's a problem at work. It's a problem in relationships between husband and wife. It's like when things are just like when all you see is the external aspect of the relationship, it's the utility or the utilitarian aspects of it, which whichever word you're going to use, it's not a complete bond with each other. It's also interesting that in the laws of honor your father and mother, right? So the Talmud defines honor your father and mother as getting them dressed, taking them to the washroom, feeding them, When does a kid do that for their parents?
Mm.
When they're already much older, right?
Yeah.
In other words, so it's when you're beyond the place of doing something for somebody because you need them, and instead you're doing for them because you really want to do for them, right? That's when it becomes a much deeper relationship.
Mm.
Okay, let's go on a little bit here. Shalom Bayit Ha'ava Shel Ha'atid. So he says like this: Shalom Bayit, peace in the home is whenever you get to experience that, it's already an illumination of the future. 135, yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Mhm.
So he says, Shalom Bayit hu hadarga shacharei biyat HaMashiach. That's the level, page 135. She's on 135. Shalom Bayit is the relationship, is the level of what it's going to be like when Mashiach is already here. תמיד ניסיתי להבין מדוע אין בגמרא מסכת על שלום בית. I always wanted to understand why in the Talmud don't we have a whole volume to discuss Shalom Bayit, right? הרי זה הדבר המקודש ביותר בעולם. Peace in the home is the holiest thing, right? יש לנו מסכת קידושין. We have a whole volume on the laws of marriage. Masechet Kiddushin, Gitin, we have a whole volume on the laws of divorce. מדוע אין לנו מסכת Shalom Bayit? Why don't we have a volume on the in-between, how to have peace in the home? התשובה היא כנראה, so it seems that the answer is that Shalom Bayit בא מהעתיד. Okay, those words are key. Peace in the home comes from the future, right?
Peace in the home comes from the future.
From the future. מהזמן שאחרי ביאת המשיח. It's coming from the post, from after the arrival of Mashiach. So דרגה שלא ניתנת להיכתב. And therefore, he says, Reb Shlomo, this is a level that cannot yet be written down.
That's why there's not a volume.
That's why it's not written down. Okay? In other words, let's explain that. Michal was touching on it before. Remember that the word shalom is from the root shalem, which means complete and whole, right? Okay? Meaning to say, it's not about diluting the two parties to the point that there's no difference between them, but rather each maintains its dignity and identity, and the two together complete one another and make it and make the picture complete. That's Shalom Bayit, right? That's the idea of Shalom Bayit, is putting the two together and becomes complete, right? Now, to see that, to envision that possibility, right? The fact that you can even envision such a possibility, that's an illumination from after Mashiach's time. In other words, not that you can't envision it now, but the fact that you can envision it, that is because there's some light of post-Mashiach already accessible to you now. Okay? The reason that we can't write down a book on Shalom Bayit is that we can write, there's lots of books on how to deal with, like, when Chanukah and Yankov got into a big fight, and what you can tell them, etc., etc. But but that the couple, or if we're talking about a couple or parents and children, that they should be able to and be willing to make peace is dependent on their connection with post-Mashiach arrival. Okay?
Not even
Others
on a
in-
conscious level, though.
Then it manifests in a conscious level, but it's because it's because you believe that there will be such a time that there's going to be real shalom bayit, so therefore you can also start implementing it now. But you have to be connected to that space in order to be able to do it now. Yes.
So everything is gonna, everything comes from the Ein Sof and it's gonna connect back into the Ein Sof after Mashiach, right? Which is like the ultimate synchronicity, right, of everything together, working properly in a beautiful way. So to be a part of Shalom Bayit, you have to kind of connect to that idea of nullification of the ego in order to be a part of something
Bigger.
bigger.
Very good. Very good. So,
What does it mean, Shalom Bayit Ba'ameh? Can people have Shalom Bayit in the...
yeah, but the ability to have Shalom Bayis now, right? Whatever is the ability to establish Shalom Bayis now is coming from the promise of the future. Okay. She says Shalom Bayit. When we speak about Shalom Bayit, ben ish v'isha, we're not talking about just husband and wife, or horim v'yeladim, or parents and children. Segam b'tocham Yisrael ben Yehudi d'chavero. We're also talking about peace in Israel between one Jew and another Jew. V'gam beino ben HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and also between the individual and God. V'zafilu beinenu vein umot ha'olam, and also between us and the nations of the world. Acharei biyat HaMashiach, after the coming of the Mashiach, kol ha'olam yiyeh kemo bayit, the whole world will be like one home, kemo mishpacha achat, halavai shenizkeh lazeh kvar, so it will all be like one family, halavai, we should merit this already. Okay.
What do you guys feel about those posters that they're putting up, the billboards about kind of unity? Have you seen them?
No, but anything that's pro-unity,
Yeah,
I'm
I
with
wonder
it.
how people are reacting it, because you see them everywhere. It
Unity in
says,
Israel.
Hayom Shishi, it says Friday night, it takes a picture, it takes a half a coffee cup and half
Oh,
a dish
yeah,
cup.
yeah. And I said that's telling people to start getting back together with their
Yeah,
families
said,
for a Shabbos meal.
Oh, okay. I thought it was trying to accept all, since I don't know
No,
either. My husband said it was about unity, everyone to accept everyone.
Yeah.
No
Good,
matter
good.
what they're doing.
Yeah, they look. the Alter Rebbe in the Tanya, when he speaks about loving your fellow Jew, right? So what if the guy is a gangster? So he says you judge the deed, but not the person. You judge the deed, not the person. You don't know if you would have been any better than him. You might have been worse than him.
Also, when I came to Israel, when I made Aliyah, I saw that there were, a lot of things going on that I wouldn't expect in the Holy Land, and I was very disappointed. But somebody told me that whatever there is in the outside world, it has to also be in Israel, because it's a microcosm that reflects the whole world. And I felt a little better that there was at least a good reason for it,
Well, yeah, we then not to take away from our responsibility. Okay. Okay, so Shlomo goes on now to talk about the holiness of a house. Kedusha shel habayit, page 136. Okay. Ma ze bayit? What is the meaning of a house? Bayit ze kfiyut. It means permanence. Sham ani chai, that's where I live. Ze hamakom sheli, that's my space. We're not talking just about physical space. If I really have a house, that means spiritually as well. There's this place in which I am living. וכאן אומר הישבץ, תורה נפלאה, הישבץ says an amazing teaching, חשובה ביותר, particularly important. הבית שלי הוא גם הגבולות שלי. My house is also my borders. הקירות של הבית שלי, the walls of my house. זה הדברים שבשום אופן לא אעשה. In other words, the walls of my house represent the limits. It means things beyond that, things that I will not do under any circumstances. בחייו של כל אחד חייבים להיות דברים שהוא בשום אופן לא עושה. In everybody's life there has to be certain things that you know, no matter what, I'm not going to do this. שהקדוש ברוך הוא ייתן לנו כוח, God should give us the strength. יש דברים כמו לצעוק על ילדים, for example, screaming at your children, or להכות אותם, or to beat them, חס ושלום, God forbid, שלא אעשה בשום אופן. There has to be, every person has to have his walls, meaning to say, this is something that I will not do. Right? הישבץ אומר שכל דבר שלילי שנקבע בתוכי, שלא לעשות אותו בשום אופן, every negative thing that has become permanently established within me that I will never do that, זו כפיות הקדושה שלי. That becomes an aspect of a permanent aspect of my holiness. כפיות הקדושה שלי היא הבית שלי, and the permanence of my holiness, that is my home. כלומר, הכלי לאור שאני מקבל מן השמיים. Means to say that's the container, the vessel for which I receive the light from heaven. Okay, so a house is a kli, is a vessel. It's right. It's your vessel, and you welcome people into your home. You live in your home physically and spiritually, right? What makes it your home? What makes it your home is that it has an aspect of permanence, right? You're not couch surfing. This is your home, right? Okay, and so, but so spiritually, what is your home? Your home is the place where, just like physically, this is the home that you live in, and this is the place where you behave in a certain way, etc., etc. And it's likewise spiritually, those things which have become part of your permanent aspects of your identity, that is your home. Okay? So when you've established that there's certain things that you're not going to do, for example, I'm not going to speak Lashon Hara, I'm not going to embarrass anybody, I'm not going to hit my children, or those things get established permanently. That is my residence, that is my home. Okay, and that is the vessel for receiving the kedusha from Hashem. Right? Kedusha can only be received through God. So that's one aspect of a house. Okay. Then he says in the last line on 136, "Habayit sheli hu hamakom bo meir ha'or sheli." My house is the place where my light is shining, is illuminating. Hame'ever sheli, where my beyond is shining.
And beyond?
Beyond. Yeah, but my beyond is shining. In other words, you step out of your house, you naturally behave in certain ways because you're conforming to society, right? You limit yourself in certain ways. In your home, A real home is a place where you feel comfortable, where you feel encouraged to be your fullest self as much as you possibly can. Okay? And your beyond is shining as well. Okay, in other words, your connection to the beyond is also welcomed in your home.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a place where your connection with the beyond is not welcome, you're not at home.
Mm-hmm.
You're not at home. Understand?
So a lot of people don't have that now, right?
Unfortunately. Yeah. That's one of the big tragedies of the generation.
They don't have what? A home?
A home in the sense that we're talking about. Yeah.
And also people, even if they have a home, they don't have shalom bayit within that home.
Then
They can't let them themselves down and be who they are.
Yeah.
Which becomes a whole nother layer of difficulty.
Exactly. Yeah.
But if your homeness resides within yourself, those qualities, then wherever you go, if it's within you, you take it with you.
Correct.
So the physical space doesn't really.
Well, you need a physical home too, but obviously, but right, but just the physical space alone, without that spiritual dimension, then you can't take your house with you.
Right.
But you can take your spiritual home with you.
Right. You can always be at home. I mean, I know it's a plain words, but you can always be at home with your own self wherever you go.
You can, yes.
If you're connected to that light.
There's an English expression to that. The home is where the heart is.
Mm-hmm.
And as you were talking, I'm thinking a home is where one feels safe and protected.
Right.
Hopefully.
Right.
And
safe and safe to flourish, to be the to live your deepest and most honest self. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a nice house.
Okay. So page 137. A house is not just husband, wife, and children. A house is something that has its own identity. It has its own holiness. I could be in love with a woman, but it doesn't mean that she's the one that I want to build a home with. And then one day I meet a woman, and I find myself beyond myself. I'm much deeper than usual. With this woman, I want to build a house, right? In other words, you want your home to not to be a limiting space. You want your home to be a place in which you can advance and grow and so on. So, אתם יודעים, אי אפשר להכיר אדם באמת עד שלא רואים, you cannot know somebody until you see them, עד שלא רואים אותו בביתו, you have to see them in their house, right? You don't really know somebody from your encounters in the street. אני יכול לפגוש אדם ברחוב וללמוד עליו המון דברים. I can meet someone in the street and learn a lot of things about him. אבל את העומק שלו, his depth, אני לא יכול להכיר עד שאני מגיע לביתו. I don't get to know the depth of this person until I visit his home.
I remember my brother's Rebbe's, like they had a thing that they would have to like go to every single person's house, like
every student's house.
Yeah, like in the beginning of the year, they would like
to get to know the students.
To get to know the students and the families and stuff. Nice. It was really cool. Like,
surprise visits or planned visits?
They were like kind of planned. They weren't like surprised.
You mean they got to pick the things up off the floor before the Rebbe came?
Yeah, like that.
But you know, it's interesting you say that because even in my granddaughter's nursery school, the teachers come to the house. Yeah. to
before the start of the
before the
school
start of
year.
the year to get to see them like in their environment or to see how they
Yeah, it's
their
very,
space.
it's very
Get
important.
comfortable
To,
with them.
it's important to know that.
Yeah, that takes a lot then.
But I mean, you know, like assuming that the people in the home are not putting on a presentation, not putting on a show, right?
But you know, I think when you go to someone's house, you get a sense in the house what it feels like. It has a certain energy, regardless of what.
You have to have a
Maybe-
certain sensitivity to be able to do that.
Oh, okay.
Not everybody could do that.
No, but I'm not even saying like a big deal energy. Just like you go, oh, I like this place. I like being here.
Yeah,
I'm comfortable here, and it's
Yeah.
different for different people.
true.
You know, and then I mean, there's levels and levels of that. But you know, if you ever go someplace, say, oh, I'm good here.
But you see,
Or the
you know,
opposite.
once
Or the opposite.
Rebbe Silver was telling us that she was working with this Native American healer, and she would bring him to give sessions in people's homes in Muncie. And this guy came into a home, and he walked by the mezuzah, and he went like, "Whoa, what's this?" And everybody was sort of surprised, right? Because he walked by the mezuzah. Thank God if you remember to give it a kiss. And this guy was telling the people, you realize how much powerful energy there is in this thing? He didn't know what it was.
Oh, he just felt like
He really sensed it. Huh?
The Native American.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, we have a friend who had someone come visit their home who was not Jewish. Came in and felt that and went and got a mezuzah and put it up at their house.
Wow.
Yeah.
Once they understood what it meant,
Yeah.
they said, even though I'm not Jewish, I'm putting a mezuzah up because this is unbelievable.
My dentist from Montreal was visiting, and he sat down over here, and he just sat down and he started to melt. And he said to his wife, I don't want to leave. But some people like Baal Shem Tov once walked into a shul and he said it was empty, but he said there's no room. So the student said, what do you mean there's no room? So he says it's full of prayers. They never left the building.
right.
You know? Just full of prayers that never left the building.
What does that mean?
That means that some people have certain sensitivity that others don't, and that's what it means. That like prayers are meant to ascend. That's what last week's parsha was about, with the ladder, right? The ladder is one of the symbolisms of the ladder is that the prayers ascend the ladder to heavenward, right? But if while I'm praying or before whatever it is, and if I'm not in the right space, then I can say the words 1,000 times; they're not going anywhere.
Right.
So he says, you can only know somebody right in their house. You guys got to go.
You do. Thank you so much for letting us in.
I can let you stay longer.
I know. I'm sorry.
You mean for letting you leave? That's okay.
Thank you all.
So I'll see you in New York, Mr. Shem. Good.
Yeah. And if you need transportation, we'll call. I'll
Yeah.
email you.
I'm coming into Newark at 4:30 in the morning. I don't think you want to get up at 4:30 in the morning.
I would get out for you at work.
Yeah.
You're not going to really get out of customs till 5:30.
Yeah. We'll be in touch. Okay.
All right.
Thank you. All the best. You know which way to go, right? To Agrippa's. Okay. So he says that בית הוא דבר כל כך מיוחד. אני הולך ברחוב ואני סתם איש קטן. A house is so special. In the street I'm walking, I'm just one small person. אחד מתוך מיליונים, one out of millions. ושאני נכנס, who's ringing?
It's fine.
It's yours? Okay, no problem. וכשאני נכנס, später. וכשאני נכנס, thank you. Regards to Maureen.
I'll be right there.
כשאני נכנס, when I enter the ביתי, משהו קורה לי, when I come into my house, פתאום אני עצמי באמת.
I just wanted for the.
I didn't bring it downstairs.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Okay, thank you. כשאני נכנס, all the best. When I come in, when I come into my house, something happens, then I'm really myself. There's a part of my soul that illuminates just in my house. Nowhere else. Right? Again, we're not talking just about the physical house, obviously, right? Because you can have your physical house, but if you don't feel that your soul has the freedom to be shining in your house, it's not really your house. Right? So he says that only in my house can I really be beyond myself. So there's a lot of aspects to that, like, to have the safety at home, to feel that you can do that, etc. So he says, Gama Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be He, Hu Nimtza B'chol Makom. God is everywhere. Nachon, correct? Aval Eifo Nifgashim Oto Ito Be'emet. But where do you really meet with God? Beveito, in His house. Klomar Bebeit HaMikdash, meaning to say in the Beit HaMikdash. Now, we don't get that because we've been away from it for such a long time, right? But if you could take the parable of your own home, right? That in your own home is where you really meet yourself, where you really are yourself. So there's an aspect about God that which we will encounter, particularly when we have the Beit HaMikdash in His house.
There's like that feeling, like I remember having when I used to come home from school. I would like drop my backpack on the floor, and like you take off your jacket and you're just like you're home. It's like
You've been another night away from prison, right? Right. By the way, just for the record, you should know some people do like school. Believe me? She doesn't believe me.
Just her nowadays.
Okay.
I used to like recess and lunch.
And you were the only one, right?
Yeah, that's what you need.
You
I spent
were.
most of my time outside.
Yeah.
it was just like science and math that like I was like, no, never again, every day.
Anyway, okay, so b'toch tochechi habayit, and on the inside of the house of the Beit HaMikdash, second last paragraph. B'toch tochechi habayit haya kodesh hakodeshim. That's where the Holy of Holies was. Sham b'yom HaKippurim. There, once a year, on Yom Kippur, haya haKohen HaGadol nifgash im HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'ofen hachi ishi. That's where the Kohen Gadol would meet with God in the most personal way. ומשם, מהמקום הכי עמוק ומקודש, and from that deepest, holiest place, היה הכהן הגדול יוצא אל העם, then the high priest would come out to the people, ומלמד אותו את שמו של הקדוש ברוך הוא, and he would teach us God's name. In other words, what does it mean when we say that he would teach the people God's name? That basically means he would teach us how he would teach us the depth of our relationship with Hashem. Hashem's names are holy, right? And the idea being that Hashem revealed his name to us, meaning to say that Hashem reveals to us how we are to bond with him. He gives us the accessibility. How can a human being who's so finite and so limited bond with the infinite one? Okay. That's a big question. So the fact is that the Infinite One has to make himself accessible to us in some way. The way he makes himself accessible to us is through a name of his. Okay? Through knowing his name, through meditating on his name, through understanding as much as we can understand about his name, that is the way which allows us to relate with Hashem. Otherwise, Hashem is just too beyond and too remote. How am I supposed to relate with God?
Is that what it means? Hashem Echad Shmo Echad?
Exactly, yeah. Hashem is one and his name is one, right? But he's beyond his name. But he manifests himself to us through his name. Okay? Gama tzadikim, also the righteous people. Eifo efshar lipagesh itam be'emet. Where can you really meet them? Beveitam, in their home. Al shulchanam, by their table. Okay. There's a story I once heard. There was a rabbi in Hungary, a Hasidic Rebbe, Reb Shlomo Carlebach, who was legendary for his kindness and his achnasat orchim. So one day, there's a Yid sitting in a bismagrish, and he just starts laughing like crazy. And everybody, what are you laughing about? So he says, did you ever see a Rebbe in his gachkes? You know what gachkes means? Underwear. So what happened was that he had come late at night in Care of Steer, and he needed a place to stay. He didn't even realize that he was knocking on the Rebbe's house, and he knocked on the door, and the Rebbe was already going to bed, so he was wearing his gachkes. But the idea of letting somebody stand outside for another minute didn't enter his mind. And he just ran to the door and opened it up, you know. And so, but you see, I know how you behave in shul, but how do you behave at home? You know, like, you know, yes, Rabbi, I know in shul you're very polite, you're filling the role of a rabbi. What are you like at home? Right? Hopefully, even more so. Even
I
more
had a good
beautiful.
story about you, Rabbi.
Huh?
I had a nice story about you.
About me?
Um,
Okay. Do I have to hear it? No. Okay. So he says, when you take, for example, when you see the Amshin of a Rebbe, when you see him, you don't know. Oh, I skipped a couple of lines, excuse me. Maha, it said last time, Maha inyan shel tish. What's the whole idea of the rabbis having a tish, a table? Shel arichat shulchan b'Shabbat etzel rabbeim. Why do they eat their meal together with the Hasidim? Hatish hu azman v'makom bo ha'rabbi hu me'ever la'atzmo shan hu me'ir. And the tish, the rabbi is like beyond himself, and that's where he's shining. Okay. קחו את הרבי מימשנה למשל, כשסתם רואים אותו, לא רואים כלום. When you see the Amshna, you don't see anything. אבל בטיש, בשולחן השבת שלו, page 138, at his Shabbos table, הוא פתאום מישהו אחר. He's suddenly somebody else. למרות שרוב האנשים שבאים לטיש לא מבינים את התורה שהוא אומר, despite the fact that most of the people that come to his tish to the tish don't understand the teachings that he's saying, right? It doesn't matter, like, you know, like he's just like on a different level there, right? I don't know what he does today, but I've seen the Amshnaver Rebbe on a couple of occasions, and a friend, this guy I knew that once told me that he once walked into the Amshnaver Rebbe's house and he was doing spanja. So he wanted to take the spanja stick away from him and do the spanja, and the Rebbe said, no, it's not, it's my dirt, not yours. And he was doing the spanja in his house, you know. and he would see people, probably still does, in his dining room, through the night. And on one occasion I come in there and he says to me, sit down. So I said to him, when the Rebbe will sit down, I'll sit down. So he says, no, sit down, then I'll sit down. Didn't say it like that, but I wasn't going to sit down before him. Okay. So I started to slowly descend. So he does this. This went on for close to 5 minutes until I finally had compassion on him and I sat down. Because I realized there was no way that I'm going to manage to get him to sit down before me. Right? Now, that's something that you see in the person's house. You see in the person's house how they behave, what they're like. Okay. So that's the we're going to stop over here today, but this idea is not all that familiar to most people. The idea of going beyond yourself, the idea of being in touch with your beyond. Okay? That's not something that people are usually in touch with. And to be that way, you have to find that shemen taho, you have to find that pure light within yourself. When you find that, you must light it and let the whole world be illuminated by your light. Okay, so Mr. Shem, somebody please remember where we are tomorrow, and we'll continue tomorrow, page 138. Okay. Everybody should have a Shavua Tov.
We don't